talks about his boys.
Mhm.
He's talking about Travis Hunter and Shador. He ain't talking about Shiloh. Welcome to Brother Sports. This is the podcast. My name is Jeff G. Got CT in Pittsburgh Crab. Brother Sports. YouTube, Spotify, coming soon. iHeartRadio, Apple Music. Please like and subscribe, comment. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, listening, wherever you are. Appreciate y'all. Let me introduce the brothers. First up, I got CT.
CT representing the 573 in the house. You see me with my new setup. I'm down in the cave with my Packer stuff in the back. So representing and getting much respect. Anyway, that's me.
CT. Don't say nobody's team. And give it up for Pittsburgh Trav.
What's up? Representing 412-660.
All right, welcome in to Brother Sports. How y'all brothers doing, man?
Good.
Hey, we're doing good, man.
How was the weekend?
Weekend was great. Got out there and played a little golf. Watched a little bit of the Masters, man. Saw McIlroy pull out a inch out of victory. It was good, real good.
My weekend's always busy. My weekend's always busy. We finally got a building.
Got 3 jobs,
potential.
Man.
Potential.
Yeah, I bought a building
for our organization. So it's been a busy weekend.
That's good. Okay, we're gonna get into the Masters. I got a cramp in my leg, but it's okay. We're gonna get into the Masters. What y'all think? The question was really, did one of the old guys like Justin Rose or David Love III have a chance to win it? But McIlroy, it took a minute, but he did his thing. What's your thoughts on the Masters?
Well, Grand Slam. That says it all. He was destined to win it. Yeah, that was his first green jacket too.
He was one of the first ones to do that since Tiger. That's almost 20 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal performance by McIlroy. I mean, he went into the water on 13 and double bogeyed that one, and I was like, uh-oh, he might be in a little bit of trouble. And Justin Rose is in the back, man. He was definitely putting a lot of pressure on him. Went to a playoff, so it was good. I like to see that kind of drama in golf.
Yeah, I felt bad for him. He hit that beautiful shot when he curved it around the trees, and then couldn't make the putt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he finished strong, and that's all that matters at the end. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how you start; it matters how you finish.
Yeah, he made it exciting when pretty much if he hadn't got those first 2 double bogeys, he could have ran away with it. I mean, I thought he was looking at he might get up to 15, 16 under, and somehow he scrambled and made it to 11.
The first 2 days, he wasn't even a leader of those days, and then he just rallied back and won. I mean, when you see a game like that, and the first round, it was like a 3-stroke lead, and then all of a sudden he just closed that gap and won it all.
Yeah,
it says a lot about it. Yeah, Phil played pretty good too. He didn't look too bad either.
Yeah, but I thought Bryce DeChambeau would do a little something, but man, he could not putt. To save his life, he was putting like me out there.
Yeah, I read a story about that, and what's his name, DeChambeau, he was actually playing with McIlroy on that the last round, and he said McIlroy didn't say a word to him the entire time. Not a word. He was just focused in, man.
Yeah, he said it. I heard him say that. I felt like crying for him when he missed that putt because he was like, man, this guy done worked hard.
So let me ask you all
day, and then to do that.
Let me ask you all a question. Daly was talking about this too. He said, as a pro, the most he ever won, prize money wise, he finished third. It was like $14,000.
Give me my money.
When the other league started, those players were making $150 million just for 36 rounds or so. They weren't locked down to. That's what he was saying. He was saying that it was like an astronomical.
Daily one's a Masters, and the Masters pay good.
Show me the money.
No. He said with
You
his
talking about live?
expenses
You talking about live?
daily.
Or you
No,
talking about
no.
the newer league?
Yeah, the newer league. Yeah.
Live. Let's live. I forget what it stands for, but yeah, they're making a lot of money now. In fact,
Their
they say
players are
that
billing.
that's why the PGA's ratings are down because you got this competition with live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the live players actually did pretty good. Bryson, Kepler played good first 2 days. You know, um, I mean, it's just a lot of money. I mean, I understand it. There's some politics involved. Um, you know, it's one of those things that everybody
If you
buys
get
golf shoes. Everybody buys and uses banking services. All their sponsors, and you got to pick and choose. Do you want the money, or do you want the optics of how it looks? And some of those guys, I mean, basically, you can make what you would make in a lifetime in 1 year, and then some of those guys, they have won tournaments in years, but they
well,
paid.
like Daly said, that year with his expenses with the room, paying to play the courses, and his winnings, he only made $14,000 or $40,000 that 1 year because those players have to pay to play on the course, the room, their flights, all of that stuff. That comes
Well,
out of
back in that
pocket for
day, that
them.
a $14,000 to get you a nice horse and carriage and all kind of stuff, man.
No, he's at 40. It was
40,000.
40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to check that because I think
That's
it's
what he
got.
said out of it.
Because I
I'll
think
send you
that.
guys the link. I'll send you
Bro,
guys the
it's
link.
messing up my mind that you stand over the. I can't see you, Scottish.
I know. It
What you
almost looks
doing,
like you
bro?
gotta go to the bathroom over there,
Yeah, I'm
man.
like you got to go pee or something.
Oh
But I can't unsee that.
man. But anyway, yeah, but it was a good tournament. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, it was real good. Yeah, I liked it too, bro.
So what do y'all so on the other part of the question was what do y'all think golf is? How's it look? How's the optics with Tiger not in the picture now? He tore his Achilles again. He's out playing another year. He's getting older. I don't know if he's going to play in the Champions Tour. That'd be crazy to watch him with the old guys because he is 50. But
Well,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
there's a theory about that, in my opinion. But Chris, if you got one, I'll hear your point, then I'll tell you what I think.
What are your thoughts, Chris, on Tiger?
Well, me, for me, I think, since Tiger last won his major in 2008, he's had a few injuries, and you look at the ratings, and obviously Live has something to do with this, but when he's not playing or contending, the ratings are down. So, I mean, I think your question was, what does golf look like without Tiger? I think it does struggle to draw viewers. Particularly viewers like myself and my complexion. You know what I mean? I want to
Yeah,
see guys like Tiger and guys that I can relate to kind of have an opportunity to win. It ain't necessarily all about race, but it is nice to see someone step into it and that's from the hood or whatever, and all of a sudden
right,
they kind of breaking that ceiling that's there because golf, as you know, it isn't a real expensive sport and it's not accessible to a lot of people. So it
Yeah.
was nice, and so that's my problem with it. So I to answer your question, I think I think it's going to struggle.
yeah,
I have a different philosophy about that, right? So if we look at the eras of sports, teams that were dominant, you know, when that one person stood out, people wanted to see him either to fail or succeed. It's sort of like at one point when the Bulls were winning all those championships, that was the most exciting time. Everybody watched basketball. Like it was must see basketball. When Brady was winning so many, you start watching him to see him be dominant, and then at a certain point, you was like, man, I want to see this guy lose. You know.
mm,
So, and then with Tiger did something only Jack did, and it was exciting because he was winning everything. So
yeah,
people wanted to see how far he can go with that. Even to this day, when he's on the course, they're like, man, if he wins one more, like he breaks the record. You know what I mean? So it's just like Serena. When Serena left tennis, tennis kind of fell because Serena she was dominant for all those years. What most people can't even tell you who won the last Grand Slam in tennis for the female
Yeah,
side because
the
you're not
Americans are
watching because
good.
you're not watching because Serena's not playing. So I think when you see the lack of a dominant person in a single, sport. It's like track. Who all was wanting to see Usain Bolt when he was running out there, man? You was watching Michael Phelps when he was winning. I mean, we couldn't stop watching that. You know what I mean? Bolt wasn't even from the United States, but how many people were watching to see him run?
Well, I
We
think
don't
golf
have that
has
in
some.
golf.
I think golf has some dominant players. You got Brooks
No,
Koepka, you
I'm
got
talking.
Scotty Scheffler, but they are not. They're dominant for the Masters, and then with Live, it kind of separates some of the best players in the world from the players in the United States, and that causes kind of a disconnect. Some people are like, it's kind of like political when people stop watching football when Kaepernick took a knee. Some people stop watching golf because they letting the Live players
Well, Scott,
play
we
now.
said it. We said it. The last time someone won the Grand Slam was over 20 years ago.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
if there was a potential for someone to do it, everyone would watch to see if he would do it. You see what I mean? So without that dominance in sports anymore, even with LeBron, when people were watching LeBron to see if he could beat Michael, then at a certain point they were like, LeBron, he's still not the GOAT because Mike got six. You know what I mean? And then they were watching to see him lose.
yeah,
But even with his decline in play, slight decline. I don't care what anybody says. He's always injured, doesn't play a whole complete season. There's always something going on with LeBron. But with that, the views in basketball, you can say the same thing about basketball. There's not that team or that player that excites you anymore like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
It
mean, I
is.
just think that there's some talent that comes around once in a while. They're kind of become icons that they're the Tom Brady's, they're the Jerry Rices, and the Tiger Woods and the Michael Jordans of the world. They're one of a kind that are draws that kind of change the sport. I'm looking to see Tyrone Woods come up from the hood and play in the
Yeah.
PGA, but that's I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. There's a
so
couple
so
players. I root for Tony Finau, but there's another young guy that's coming up. Yeah, it's a tough.
the
It's tough. Golf's a very expensive sport, if we know. And
Hmm.
I complain about $50 green fees. But where these cats are playing, you know,
yeah,
150 to 400. And if
yeah,
you don't have a sponsor,
or more,
you ain't playing.
or
Yeah,
more,
18 holes. Like
and they're
what
playing
is
it.
that?
Yeah.
Sawgrass. I think it's like 400 or 600 to play.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
crazy.
I remember when I used to say, man, the most I'll pay is $2 a hole.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah.
limit.
But let's put it in perspective, right? If that's not the case, we're talking about a black guy dominated a predominantly white sport,
Hmm.
and everybody wanted to see him play
Yeah, yeah,
because what he was doing. I think if they find somebody else that will show some level of dominance, it'll rebound. It'll rebound.
yeah.
The
I
sport
think
will
I
come
think
back.
Roy will have a following, but again, Roy is not an American player, so we'll see. We'll see what
I
happens.
don't think it
Congrats again.
matters.
Hey, but
But
just on the side note, I think he's going to win a couple more because the Open is played at his home course, and then I think the U.S. Open where it's played, he's won 4 times. He's kind of getting in that Tiger zone where
Yeah.
it's
and
his
then
to lose.
watch the excitement that he would ignite back in golf.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
we'll see.
I think there'll be a following. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next subject, we're going to get into the NBA, the playoff chase, and then the play-in tournament coming up. I don't know if you heard that there was a few games last night, and the Warriors lost, and they in the play-in. What's your thoughts on the play-in tournament? How the new format is, and who's your favorites to get through the play-in? And of course, if you win the play-in, your present is you get to play
yeah,
Cleveland or Boston, or you get to play OKC or Houston. Golden State wants to play Houston so bad because they think they can beat them, but Houston won
you
enough
don't
games to be
know.
the number 2 seed.
You don't know. Hey, I'm gonna put a dark horse in there. and it's how to make CT happy. You know, you can't count them out either, man. Your team looking pretty good right now. They're making a little bit of surge, and
Bucks
if
is
they
Chris,
can make
who
rising.
are
that,
the Bucks playing? I forgot. I
Bucks
think they
play the
play the
Pacers
Pacers,
in the
huh?
first round. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be
yeah,
a tough one, man. Y'all better
I
hope
mean,
Halliburton is
it's like you
hurt.
said, one and done. So if they can upset them, I mean, basketball's one of those things. It's not best of seven, you
Well, for
know.
them, I
Wasn't
think that
it
what's that first that
what
round is it first win three the first because the Bucks are already in, so I think it's the best of three in that one.
Yeah, it's the best of three. I think the spots that are open are the seventh and eighth seed. And I think I may have responded to you on the chat we did. I got
Yeah,
I think I got in the West, I'm gonna say the Warriors with the seventh and the Kings with the eighth
let me help
seed.
you
And
out.
then I like Orlando and the Hawks.
Nice
So,
stuff,
so
dude.
you
I
think
like
the
that.
Kings are
Nice
going to be
stuff,
in it,
man.
huh? You think the
I think
Man,
they're
Kings are
going to
going to
make
get
the
in it?
have to be
playoffs.
Dallas, man. The Kings play Dallas. The Warriors play. They play Memphis, right? Yeah, they play Memphis. And if we know if Ja starts pointing that gun, he's gonna be on the bench.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, but can you afford to lose them when it's that critical to get in or stay in?
Man, it's gonna be tough. I like this new format. You win, you in. You lose, you go home. If you win, you play again on Friday. Play again on Saturday. I like the format. I mean, it's hard to believe that the Warriors, the way they were on the tear with Jimmy Butler, how they ended up in this spot. But some people try to say they lost on purpose so they can play Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'd
I
say
Yeah, I
think
that.
the
think
Kings can beat Houston.
I like the Kings against the Mavericks. I think that since the Mavericks lost, was it
They
Yeah.
lost Luca and they
Luca,
lost
and they got
Kyrie. Kyrie's out.
Anthony Davis, and I just think they're in disarray. And I don't necessarily like where the Grizzlies are as a franchise. I think that there's some serious leadership issues, particularly with Ja Morant. You know, how many
Yeah.
times that dude been arrested? I don't know. So I just think that stuff comes back to haunt you later on.
Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. So you think the Mavs situation was because of money and not being able to sign all those players back, or
I think their problem was they don't want to admit it, but they didn't want to pay Luca.
that's what
If
I'm
Luca would have
saying?
Mm.
stayed,
So
he
was
would
it a
have got a super
financial
max.
thing?
If he would have stayed, he would have got super max, and it would have been 550 million. And they thought he was lazy. He didn't play defense, and he was out of shape. But I think he's one of those players that everybody knows that player. He's kind of flabby and lazy on defense, but he can shoot the lights out. You know, and I think they just didn't want to pay him. It happens in the NFL. They don't want to play players, so they just let him go. So
Do
why
you think
not?
he was like a Tony Kukoc?
But I don't know why they fired the coach. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
Memphis. That's Memphis firing the coach and Denver firing the coach with 3 games left, and then Memphis fired the coach with 10 games left. It just boggles my mind. How are you going to go win a playoff game without a coach?
I think he said,
Well,
"Do you think
maybe.
that Luca was like Tony Kukoc?" Remember?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that was his thing.
I think Tony played defense.
No, but what I'm saying is he was complete, but he did lack in some other areas. You know what I'm
Luca
saying?
reminds me of James Harden.
Stop it.
Mm.
Get some help.
That's who
Oh,
Yeah.
I compare him to. Only he's
Harden
big.
kind of gets a little lazy on stuff. I can see that point.
Yeah, he don't play.
But I'm
I
talking about
personally,
size,
yeah,
attributes, the whole works.
Man, Tony played defense.
Don't do
If you're gonna
drugs.
play with Michael Jordan, you gotta play defense.
Let's eliminate defense. But as a contributing player, passing, rebounds, shooting, you know what I mean? I think he kind of fell into all of those categories, minus, he wasn't overly aggressive. But then again, in today's NBA, defense is not a requirement. It really isn't.
I mean,
At
but
that
the
time it
good teams
was.
play defense. Oklahoma City plays defense.
I
Cleveland
hear
plays
you.
defense. Boston plays defense.
I hear you because
I
they,
think
they adopted
Boston,
that philosophy.
the teams you mentioned, I think Boston's the only one that actually plays defense.
Hmm.
And then I just don't like the direction the game is going in right now. I mean, it's just dribble handoff, kick out for a three. I mean, nowadays teams will shoot 50 something threes in a game. And
Hmm.
before, I mean, so the mid range game is gone. The back to the basket game is gone. It's all about analytics. It's all about threes. And I'm telling you, everybody uses the same plays the same way. So there's no nuance to it. So defensively, you'll see. I watched a game the other day. It was like 130 to 125, and basically all threes, no defense whatsoever. So and they need to fix that. They probably need to move the 3-point line back or do something to change the game to make it more. There's more strategy associated with it. So right now, I'll fall asleep in the first quarter.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I watched the first quarter and I watched the third quarter and then the last 4 minutes. That the
I
rest
tell
of
you
it
this though, I
is
think
just
Steph
like,
Curry kind of set the bar.
yeah,
Everybody's trying, especially the younger players. You know, now he's mentioning art. Mentioned in some of the greats
yeah.
conversation. You know what I mean? Because of what he was able to accomplish, and some people would say he's even better than LeBron. He has a better shot. He plays
He's
defense
one
a
of the
little
best
more
shooters of all
aggressive.
time. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. And he plays the defense a little bit more. So, and then you have so many 3 points shots that you set the record so far ahead of
you
anybody
know,
else.
I think that there's a world, there's a place for the Reggie Millers and the Steph Curry's of the world, but when everybody's hoisting up a three, you got Brooke Lopez going 3 for 15, and Giannis going 2 for 20 from the three. I mean, it just becomes like, come on, dude, go shoot a two,
Yeah. It used to
dunk the
But
ball.
be, it used to
but
be, to
let's
Chris's point, it used to be that the 3-point shooters shot the threes. Now everybody shoots the threes. You got
yeah, and
Draymond
that's
Green
my
shooting
point.
threes. And if you want to see a horrible game, watch the Warriors when Steph's off. Let
Yeah,
let Steph
So
get like
horrible.
20 points. It's
I
hard to
mean,
watch.
Yeah, it's horrible.
everybody's throwing up threes. Joe Biden, George
Oh,
Bush out
to
there. My
watch.
mom's out there throwing up threes. I'm like
It's
clanking
hard
them
to
off the
watch.
rim.
Yep. And there's some people you'd be like, "What are you doing?" It's
I
crazy.
agree.
When I was in school, if you shot like that, the coach would be like, "Get over there, sit over there, get over there, right there,
Right.
get over
I
there."
Yeah.
mean, we didn't give you no green light.
Yeah. Buy me a Coach Jenkins.
You had a red
Coach
light,
Jenkins
bro.
said, "Y'all shooting enough bricks to build $100,000 home." I was like,
Dude,
No,
could you
but what I'm
"Build
getting
a
at,
small home."
hey, could you
what I'm
imagine
getting,
in when Shaq played, if they played like now and Shaq was hoisting up 23s a game, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying he can't hit some, but nobody wants to see that. You know what I mean?
well, I don't think he could do it. He can't even shoot a free throw. So if he can't hit a free throw, he can't hit a three.
I mean, but you got Jokic. You got Jokic shooting threes. He's 7 foot. You got a Holmgren shooting threes. He's 7'2".
Yeah, but
They
they
shoot
can shoot
threes.
They can shoot a three. Shaq couldn't shoot a free throw.
I know, but if you got a guy that's 7 foot shooting threes, who's in the inside? Who's in the
Hakeem
inside?
was Hakeem Olajuwon was shooting
Muggsy
them.
Bogues is rebounding.
But let's just say
He's a
this:
big man
this
now.
all I was getting at about the Steph Curry reference thing is like this. I know I can't play like LeBron, so these younger guys coming out of college, they're modeling their game after somebody that they think they can play close to.
Yeah.
Like Kobe played like Jordan because that was his guy. Before that, Doc was Jordan's guy. You know what I mean? So if you look at today's NBA, Steph Curry is a man. You know what I'm saying? LeBron, he ain't making no complete seasons. The guy, he doesn't play defense. There's a lot of things that he lacks, despite of everybody want to say
I'll
he's
take
the GOAT
LeBron's
because of
speed
numbers.
over half the league.
You know what?
But I'm
You
just
know
saying
you know
Steph
what else
Curry
is
is more
bad?
complete. So who you gonna model yourself after?
I don't know.
Steph
Yeah.
or you know what I mean?
Oh, go ahead, Trav. I don't know. I think you're right. Your point is good. I think that they are modeling their game off of Steph. But
They are.
the
Yep.
other thing I really don't like about the league today is that like you can go buy a ticket. I don't know if you go see the Kings play, and
Cost me
sometimes the,
two.
the
Cost me
headlining,
230.
yeah, the headlining player, hell, he's on the rest day, and you done spent
Yeah,
$100 on
I
some
went to see
tickets.
the Suns, and all I got to
Yeah.
see was the back of Kevin Durant's head because he didn't play.
You know what? I tell you what, man. Sometimes I'm a little stressed and I can't get to sleep at night. All I gotta do is turn on an NBA game. I'll go right to sleep. Right, like a baby. That in baseball.
Well, hopefully in the future, that's not across the board in sports in general because
Mm,
the rules change so much. I think the only things that haven't changed is hockey, baseball, relatively untouched. You know what I mean? Those sports have been played the same way since forever. If you look at football, the landscape in football changed so much as far as hits and stuff, and it should have changed. But we went away from that defensive the black and blue division to pass happy league. You know what I mean? And just like the NBA, we went away from defense and we're focusing on
Yeah,
scoring.
I wish they
So
would bring back hand check. I mean, not as crazy as the Bad Boys or Joe Dumars and John Stark beating Jordan to death, but I wish they would bring back hand checking. I wish they would lay off of some of the you
cheap
know
fouls.
the
Yeah.
blocking fouls and stuff, and let
Yeah,
people
it's
play
trash.
defense.
hmm
They get mad at me when I officiate because I allow a little bit of contact. You know what I mean? I was like, hey, that's basketball.
that's
You
sports.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
get a little physical, man up, deal with it, and they, oh, that's a foul. No, 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 no. I'm not
Yeah.
calling the cheap ones.
Chris, you said you referee a little high school ball and AAU.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
do
yep.
you notice that some of the kids are shooting kind of far out?
Yeah, that's how they're brought up in the game. You'll have they don't even let your taller players play with their back to the basket anymore.
They
It's
don't they
all
don't run no pick
face
and
up.
roll or nothing.
Yeah, it's some
Okay.
pick and roll. It's some pick and roll. It's mostly motion offenses where you are running a pick to free up your top player so he can get a three. But you might have a guy that like even you might have a 6'9" or 6'10" person, and he's not commanding the paint by calling for the ball or any of that kind of stuff. It's more if he does, it's more turn around and face the basket and shoot or drive. You know what I mean?
That's a waste, man.
The
I
days
played
of
with some
Kareem
shorties.
Abdul-Jabbar skyhook are over, bro.
Hey, I
Yeah.
played with some shorties at the Y. It's been a minute, but I played with some shorties, and I go up and set the pick. They wave me off. They be like, "I got this, bro," and then they
Yeah,
shoot
yeah.
the three, and I'll be like, sometimes they would make it, but I'll be like, "Hey, I don't mind you shooting the three, but just let me get underneath the rebound." And then I'm posting up. I'm 5 inches taller than the person that I'm with, and they just like, "Nah, I got it, bro." And it just I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Man, y'all ain't even playing the game right, man."
Yeah.
And I'm ready to
And
go home, man. This is nonsense.
and the funny thing about it is they'll make some of those shots. You go 5 of 14 from the three. Yeah, that's probably pretty decent, but it's ugly to look at, man. And it's really ugly to officiate. It's
Man,
boring because it's a
if you
missed
play a
three
game
and
to
you run
21,
the other way. You run the other way.
but if
But
you play
like
a
I
game to
said,
21, you cannot shoot 10, 15 threes.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy, bro.
You
It's
can shoot
crazy.
10 layups and the game's over.
yeah. But it's like the dynamic we were talking about earlier with golf. You model your game after the most exciting player, and I hate to say it, it's Steph Curry right now, in my opinion. You know what I mean? He's the only consistent player in the NBA. You know what I mean? He's
I
still
model my
knocking down
game.
those threes. He still has one of the best shots defensively. He's a tough player defensively. He's the most complete player in the NBA right now.
Who is Steph?
I think he is. You
I
know what I
think his
mean?
defense. I think his defense is a little suspect, but I think he makes an attempt. To me, Steph was better at defense when Clay was next to him
Yeah,
because
but he had that. He
they
had
both
it's.
played because Clay played defense. But I think because of all the switching, they don't want, and it's normal. You don't want your star player to get in foul trouble. So the two guard normally takes on that role where they're going to get all those fouls.
But he plays defense. LeBron will sit at the other half of the court so someone can pass it down to him, so he doesn't have to run all the way down there and play.
I think LeBron's defense is decent enough.
No, I'm just saying it's not all the time he does that, but he does do that
Well,
sometimes.
I mean he's 40 now, but I mean I would take LeBron. He one thing I like about LeBron's defense. LeBron guards all five positions, and nobody
Yeah,
really does
I
that
agree with that.
other than
Yep.
Draymond.
I
He
agree with
guards
I
all
that.
think
five.
LeBron is a good
That's a fair
defender, and he's
assessment.
a really good help defender. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
but
every
he
team
he
I've been on, they play good help defense. That's what all I wish my Kings would. Like Chris was saying, he watches the game to go to sleep. Man, if I watch the game to go to sleep, the Kings would be up by 20, and I wake up in the morning they done lost.
Yeah.
But they can't.
Oh,
I don't
and
know what happened to them in the fourth quarter.
by the way, Trav, I modeled my golf game after the late great Crocodile Dundee because I'm always in the bush. I'm always in the bush, baby.
Yeah, that's not annoying.
Top of the morning to you.
All right, to wrap up the NBA segment, who
In
do
the
y'all got? I
Barbie.
mean, who do y'all still got going to the final?
Boston.
In NBA Finals, I'm gonna say the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay,
You heard it
so who
here.
who who is Milwaukee going
B2B
to beat in the
podcast.
East Finals? Who's Milwaukee going to beat in the East
I'm not.
Finals?
I'm not certain of how the matchups go because I haven't looked at the bracket. But I'm gonna say that Boston's gonna be up there, and Milwaukee Bucks shock the world.
Okay,
That's what I
so
say.
if on your point, if Giannis doesn't have a good game, can the Bucks win?
The big thing is getting Lillard back. He has a blood clot, so if they can get his offense back and the other help, they're a better defensive team now. I think they got a lot of players that kind of do that dirty stuff. Your Bobby Portises, your Kyle Kuzmas of the world are kind of do the Rodman kind of stuff that kind of like even what I forget the guy's name from the Celtics, but they kind of play that hard nose, diving for balls, that kind
Yeah,
of stuff, and I think that's gonna be the thing that gets them over the top.
yeah. Okay, Trav, who you got?
Oh, I told you Boston.
Boston. Who's Boston going to play out of the West?
Oh, that's Golden State. Possible.
Man, you know how many games Golden State would have to win to get to the finals?
Hey, but you know what though? That, like I
Ooh,
said,
boy.
all they had to do is get there. Once they get in, they're a tough team to beat
Yeah, I think Golden
because
State's
they've
going
been
to
there
have to win
before.
a lot of games. I mean, they got to win the play-in, then they have to win the second play-in, and then they would have to win 2 to 3. Man, we're talking about 15, 16 games they would have to win to get there. Yeah.
I
Maybe,
wouldn't count them out though. I
maybe
wouldn't count them out.
my picks are um, Oklahoma City in the West, and I'm gonna go with Boston in the East. Even though Cleveland, I hate
Boo.
to disrespect them, but I think Boston is
You
bored.
you're putting Cleveland in over Boston.
No, no, no. I'm just saying that I think I hate to disrespect Cleveland,
I'm not
but I
disrespecting them.
think Boston is bored. I think Boston can beat anybody, anywhere. The way they beat Oklahoma City, it just it's amazing to watch. And then Boston got people who come off the bench that can score 40, and nobody
That's
else
what I'm
has that.
saying.
Nobody
That's what
else
I'm
has
saying.
that. But I personal pick. I want OKC to win it all.
You
And I
know,
know
Boston's tough to beat with Porzingis. If he's in the lineup, they're going to be tough to beat. They're a tough matchup. But I like your pick with the OKC. I think Shea Alexander, what's his name, Kid Gilchrist,
Shea Gildas
win in a
Alexander,
seven
SGA.
game
SGA is going to win the MVP
in
if
the
they
seven game
don't.
series. I saw him dismantling teams last year in the 7 game series. He can get his shot anywhere on the court, and he reminds me a lot of Jason Tatum, who can get his shot. But I think that he's a step above. I think
He's more
they're pretty,
aggressive.
yeah. But
Sometimes
Boston, on
OKC
the
is
other
Jason
always
hand,
the
Tatum
with
is the
relevant.
best player on his
like I
team.
say with Porzingis in the lineup,
Hmm.
oh man, they're a dangerous team.
Yeah. And when they stole your boy,
Oh yeah,
that made now they got somebody to play defense.
yeah. They're one of the few teams that will play defense. That's the rest of them don't play. Maybe Milwaukee plays,
And
but
I thought when they lost their coach, they would miss a step. But look at their coach. Got them youngsters in hoop in Ime Udoka, man. He got them youngsters in Houston balling. I don't think they can beat anybody in the playoffs because they so young. But
you talking about the Rockets? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they balling, man. I mean,
Hey,
Yeah,
let
how
they're
me
they
tell
good,
you
got
man.
guys
number two
They're
though.
good.
seed.
Let
The
me say
Kings beat them
something.
like 4 times, but they beat everybody but the Kings.
Let me tell you something though. You know what's very encouraging? If you looked at the Final Four, what was the key component to the championship game? It wasn't offense. It
NIL
was defense. No, no.
transfer
Well,
portal.
But let's think defense. Look how Houston smothered
Houston did
Duke.
play D. Yeah.
They smothered Duke, and then when Miami had, or when Florida had a chance, Florida did the same thing Houston did to
Yeah,
Duke.
I think the top four teams really played defense.
They
Before it was just a lot of good shooters and good scorers on teams and Dominic Biggs, but I think there was a lot of good shooters.
but won the championship.
Yeah, the
It's the
defense. Yeah,
defense,
yeah,
you know.
it's hard to say that about basketball because so few many
But
teams play defense.
it might create a narrative because when those guys get drafted, they're probably going to have that same philosophy and mindset going into the pros. And if they do, maybe we'll see the defense come back in the NBA.
Yeah. On a side note, let's when we talk about NLL, what are y'all thoughts on Nico, uh,
Oh yeah,
Tennessee quarterback? Said, "Give me $4 million or I'm out."
But we
he
had
didn't
this
ask for
discussion.
enough.
He didn't ask
Give
for
him
enough.
20 mil a season.
Give me
He's asking more
Show me the money.
than what's his name? Purdy is making for the Niners.
Yeah.
He wants more than that. That's what I hear. That's crazy,
Yeah.
right?
He said he
And he's
won
in
$4 million,
college.
and
But
Yeah.
you open up the door.
Tennessee said, "See ya."
Get to stepping. I think that like we had this conversation online. I just think that it's yeah. I think it takes away from the game. You know, I just
100%.
I get that these players, these teams are making millions off of these players, but where do you draw the line? You get down to grade school and someone's asking for a shoe deal. Come on, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't like it at all.
I've been hearing that the 7th, 8th graders have been getting offers, just offers, and it's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting at because we opened that Pandora's box when we opened it up in college and allowed them to do stuff like that. You know,
Yeah, but
now,
they had to get paid. I just don't know the right
okay,
way
so
for
let me
them.
ask you a question because you and I had this discussion. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the McDonald's All American team, they're all high school players. Should they make millions of dollars to play in those tournaments that are hosted by McDonald's and Nike and all those other companies?
It's a tough one because the guys that make that team, I say 90% of them get great scholarships, and I mean
But you
they get to
just
play.
said when you get to
No,
the next level, they should pay those guys. Why not pay them in
true,
high school?
true, true. But I'm saying just by getting to that game, you're gonna go to a good school, which means you're gonna get good money.
What I'm getting at is if the college game is going
Are
to
you saying
allow
they
it
should
for
get
the
paid for the McDonald's game, or
no. Here's what I'm saying: if the college game pays their players millions of dollars
mm-hmm.
to play in college, then why not recruit a high schooler and say, "Hey, I'll give you $50 million to play for my school before he even graduates high school"?
that right now that's illegal.
No, what I'm getting at is since you open the door in college, who's to say that doesn't happen in high
I don't
school?
know. I walked around
That's
Kansas
the
City. I heard
problem I
Javon
have.
Truder play for Missouri. I seen him at the mall, and I said, "Hey, Javon, man, what's with all the bling and stuff?" He said, "Boosters." I seen Tony Dumas. He was at UMKC, got drafted by the Dallas Mavericks. He drove a BMW all through high school. So,
You
so
know what
what's
I think we're
happening?
going to? I think we're
That's
going
what
to
I'm getting
college
at, and that's the
sports
problem.
is going to be almost like a semi-pro league, and they're going to probably have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to have to do like collective bargaining agreements and things like that. And so your traditional college sports and the transition that kids in grade school and go to high school and then go to college, all that stuff goes out of the window. It's going to be your big name players, your schools like the Lincoln Universities of the world aren't going to be able to compete in that world. Who's gonna? They're never gonna. The talent's going to be so congregated on certain big level teams that have all the money that smaller schools are going to be
Yeah,
left out in the
because
cold.
see,
And
back in the
Plus, if
'70s,
you
somebody
can
who played
pay,
at Lincoln could go to the NFL. You know?
plus if you
yeah,
can pay those guys as players, who's to say that another college say, "Hey, I need that quarterback, so I'm going to offer you. What are you making here? Well, I'll give you $1 million more."
but you can't do that when you already committed to
They're
a
doing it
team.
in basketball.
That's what Nico
They
did.
did it in basketball.
Nico's like, give me my money or I'm going somewhere else.
You
Did
know what
they
the funny
not do
thing
it in
about that
basketball?
though?
How many transfers happened after the season was almost over?
But that's where the game is now.
But you
You
don't
know
think there
what?
was no financial incentive for them to go to a different teams?
Oh yeah,
And
most
that's the
definitely.
problem. And that's the problem I have. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing: you sign a contract, you got a great education from a Division I school, which even if it's Harvard and you're playing for Harvard, you're taking that education and you're gonna have a guaranteed job, whether you get to the pros or not. It's a guaranteed job. You might have traveled for that, but how many people would hire somebody that says Harvard, Ohio State, Michigan on their degree? There's a lot of people that do that, and it'll set up a career for them for life. And they don't have to compete with the injuries and all the other stuff that
Well,
I
I mean,
think that's
they say only
sustaining enough.
2% of players actually go to the pros. So I mean,
I
Look
know,
at these
but
people
but
walking
that's
on
the
my
point.
studio. Look at these people walking in my studio.
That's the whole point, though, Scott. The point is this: even if 2% goes, I'm pushing you through
Security.
with a degree from
Hey, you
a
know what? Here's a good thing about it though,
big
y'all.
college.
Let me just say this. The players that come out of college now that they stay in longer are a more of a finished product.
yeah.
But what you don't
No, let me
see
ask you a
is
question.
so let me just say this. So you got your Jaden Daniels of the world, you got all these players that can come in what would traditionally be, maybe it would be a 1 or 2 year, window that they need to start and get ready for the game. And now they're coming in with some skills, right? That said, like you have those later round picks, your third, you're in your top 100, your third and fourth round picks that you draft, and maybe they kind of redshirt that first NFL year, don't get as much starting in time, or they do get some starting time, but they're not ready, and then you're expecting that second year jump, and I'm not seeing the second year jump anymore. I just see a player that's at the peak of what they are able to do because they reached their peak probably in college. I don't see players getting better over time. Yeah, spend 4 or 5 years in college.
I see that the most in the NBA. I think in the NBA there's so many
No, I
players.
see.
No, I think in the NBA there's so many players that are not ready. But in football, I still think you can take a Brock Purdy type player in later rounds and that player still be relevant. I don't see it as much in basketball.
Jackson.
Well, but if you think about something too, there's pros and cons of staying for your fourth year. You had I want to think of his name. He played for Miami, was drafted by the Bills, played for Baltimore, and got injured. I mean, like catastrophic injury against the Steelers. He was running back. I'm trying to think of his name right now, but he played for Miami. He played his fourth year for Miami and like tore up his knee. He
Um,
fell down in the draft. This is like in the early 2000s. I'm trying to think of his name. If I
you're
had,
not talking about Willis McGahee, are you?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
you know,
yeah,
he,
yeah.
he played his fourth year in Miami because they were powerhouses then. You know,
Mhm.
they had Tim Tebow and all those guys on the team. He gets injured his senior year, fell in the draft, and he re-injured himself. Another one is Tua. Remember Tua when he was in Notre Dame? His first 3 years, he was amazing. Came back for his fourth year option, and he looked like straight track. He couldn't do nothing. So he fell in the draft, went to San Diego, and his career was kind of like, he was one of the most dominant players for 3 straight years.
But
Played
do
that
you
fourth
think?
year option.
It sounds to me like Scott Pittsburgh Trav is making the argument for paying college players, right? If you're the Willis McGahee or the other kid Tua, um, and you're not getting paid, and then you get injured in college, your career is essentially over. So I'd say that you want to get paid while you're in college.
Well, what I'm saying is this: go in your third year. If you have a dominant season, whether it be 2 years, 3 years, get out, play. enter the draft. Barry Sanders didn't want to leave. He loved
Yeah, but
college.
right now in
But
the NFL, depending on what position you play, they are bad mouthing you if you stay in, especially the running backs, because the running backs they think that they only have a shelf life.
of 6 years.
Yeah, that if you know get a young running back that's a junior, that he still got some years left in him. You know,
Hmm.
um,
And
that
that's my point. I mean, most players they peak in 2 or 3 years, three at the absolute most. Brady was kind of irrelevant, but he took Michigan to the championship game his third year and they entered the draft. But up to that point, he was a backup. Nobody knew if he wasn't even he was 6th round pick, man,
well,
125th.
and I've heard that a lot this year and even last year about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks that stay in school, they kind of badmouth them because they say they old. That they been in school 5 years, red shirt, 6 year red shirt, and that they've hit a ceiling. They only going to be so good because that window's closed.
I think it's like any sport. If you play in a system too long, it's hard from you to break from that system. If you play for a certain university and you're drafted to a team that plays a completely different style offense, then there's going to be that growth period. So if I played 4 years, it's like I lost 2 years in the pros because or three because I'm sitting behind a backup because I know you're not ready because I still going to break you from this system. And then when you finally get ready, so now you're 27, 28 years old playing quarterback as a rookie because you sat behind somebody for 2 or 3 years and you played 4 years
Bro,
in college.
running backs are basically a dime a dozen now. You don't have to spend a top 100, yeah, a top pick on a running back anymore. They
And they
just don't
don't.
have as much value. And we can talk about Ashon Genty and all those guys, but I mean, look at last year. I mean, my mom got drafted in the third round. She averaged 1 inch per carry, and she was a top 100 pick, man.
Hey, let me give you an example.
But
The Philadelphia Eagles paid Saquon what 20?
yeah,
Saquon's making 20 million, earned every dime of it. Okay, the Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt. They have Pacheco and they have Elijah Mitchell, and them cats ain't making 7 million combined.
Let me tell you this. You remember from A Tribe Called Quest? What was his son's name? Played for Auburn.
Uh, you're talking about what you call De La Soul.
Yeah, De La Soul. So listen, his championship game that Auburn was in, he ran for like 315 yards. And he had a hell of a college career.
What happened to him?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And you know
Yeah,
what? He stayed that extra year in college. He should have left when he had that breakout season, and maybe his career would have went somewhere.
yeah, but
But
you get
he's
people in your
nowhere
ear
to be
telling you
found.
that some
really,
people like if you're not number one, you're not gonna get in. You're not gonna get in. So that's the way it goes. All right, well let's wrap it up. The last thing is Shador. Shador had his pro day. To me, he would look kind of braggy and kind of me and but anyway, um, there's rumors that he may fall out of the top 10, maybe even out of the top 15. He visited the Steelers and he was in love. It almost sounds kind of fishy that they trying to control the narrative, but news came out this week that Derek Carr may have not career, but season-ending surgery, and that leaves the Saints without a quarterback other than Rattler, who lost every game he started.
If he drops, then that's where he'll go. I
What are
I
your
think
thoughts?
think here's the thing. I know if we do a mock draft 2.0, this is going to be a spoiler that I'm going to let out, but I personally think that the Saints can draft Shadur at number 9, but they can also trade back for some additional draft capital and still get him probably
Oh,
at
yeah, oh, for
15 or
sure.
16. You know, and I don't think that they lose. And right now they're in salary cap hell, and I think that they could use an influx of a lot of young cheap talent. I think that that's where
Yeah,
they're at.
yeah. They said they need everything because their wide
they
receivers are
do.
gone, their running backs in trouble. Um, but I think personally, if Shador does not get drafted by the Saints, that other teams will try to come back into the first round and get him from the Steelers.
Yeah, I can see. I don't know. I've looked at a lot of different mocks and yeah, the Steelers. I just don't think that Shador. He is a lottery ticket, but he's not the kind of player that's gonna put a win now team over the hump. And I think that Pittsburgh is win now.
Yeah,
I
but
don't.
I think,
We're
but
lacking a
me with
quarterback.
Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh's still going to sign Aaron Rodgers.
If they have Rodgers, there's no need to go for a
Oh,
quarterback.
they're going to draft him. I think I just don't see it because
If we draft,
Rodgers.
it's going to be
There's no
somebody that's
guarantee.
unknown.
Ask the Jets if they should have drafted another quarterback besides Rodgers.
I
Oh,
could
yeah.
see the Steelers going after Shamar Stewart, going after an end, going after a strong tackle that'll defensive tackle that is that's gonna kind of fill in that defense because I think they won most of their games last year based on the play of the defense.
But let me just say this. I mean, we're talking about the Jets, and I hate to say this about the Jets, but it's a fact. Every quarterback that had a great career and finished their career with the Jets did nothing. Donald played and was drafted by the Jets, went to Minnesota, and he had a great career. He went to Carolina, he didn't do too bad. It's something about the organization or something because they had some pretty good names back in the days
Yeah,
and couldn't do nothing with them.
but you
Couldn't
know
do
what? I
nothing
think
with them.
Justin Fields going to do good in New York. I think he's going to do good. I'm not saying he's going to win 10 games, but
But
I think he's going to make them competitive.
what I'm saying is when Dan Marino left that division, Tom Brady didn't start. You'd have thought the Jets would have been competitive in that, and they had
The
some good
The
players.
Jets did. They had their little run when they had what's
They
his
had
name?
their runs in like 2008, 2009 when they had the butt play where
Yeah,
he
the butt
got
fumble.
tackled by the center by running into his own butt.
But
You
he
know,
had the
I'm
best
just
defense in the league.
yeah, but you couldn't do nothing with
They
it.
had they went to the AFC Championship game to what 2 out of 3 years.
Yeah, and thank God because we went to the Super Bowl because of them. So I'm just
They
saying
were a good team. They just
they were, they were.
what's his name? Mark what's his name?
It was Sanchez. They had
Yeah,
Sanchez.
Sanchez. Sanchez couldn't get him over the hunt.
But they also had what's his name, the receiver that was undrafted, and I thought he was really good. Uh, who was that guy's name? Short. He was a short dude too.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But back to Shador, he's a talent, and I think he's going to sell tickets. And he's the kind of player that can come in. He has some bravado, and he has that kind of Dion, like I said, mentality. That if he succeeds early on, it's going to be hey, look, let's go watch him play, right? I just don't think he's the kind of talent that's going to come in like your Jaden Daniels of the world, or even any of the quarterbacks who had success last year. Now, I obviously could be wrong. I see him as a second round talent, and in any if he comes out last year, he probably falls to third.
Well,
You know what I
I
mean?
say this.
Uh,
I say this. The players that put that kind of pressure on themselves have a lot to prove because they put that pressure on themselves. I can't think of too many players that didn't talk that talk and tried their hardest. So by him creating that pressure for himself, I think that's a good thing. I mean, let's say
yeah,
Ocho Cinco. He was the same way. He put a Hall of Fame jersey on
dude.
or jacket on the
No,
sideline. You had
come on,
T.O.
man.
He, showing his ass. But let me tell you this though.
Dude. Football is the
Look what they
ultimate
did
team
though.
sport. It's a
I
team
agree
sport.
with you.
It's not a me. I'm going to take you to the promised land thing. You have to have every cog in that mechanism, in that machine working correctly
I
for you
agree
to
with
be able to succeed. Your offensive line got to be able to work. Your tight ends got to, your running backs got to block. Your receivers got
you. I
to run the right
agree.
route. You got to put the right, your plan, your management got to be on point. It's not, and this is one thing that bothered me about Shador. It does seem to be about him, at least when
Hey
you hear him
man, I
talk.
got a three hundred thousand
Let me
dollar
ask you a
watch,
question.
man.
Let me ask you a
right. When
question.
you hear him talk,
Let me ask you a
wow,
question.
I just can't believe I'm here doing this, and I got
your
I got the
studio,
production crew in the
your,
back turning the lights
your
out.
studio's being attacked.
No, let me ask y'all a question, right?
You know,
Who was the cockiest player to ever come out of any NFL draft? It was Deion Sanders. And let me tell you something. If the draft was right now and I needed a corner or a safety or any position like that, I don't care how bad he talks. I'm going to take him in the first round every
I
single
know, but it's
time.
hard to take.
And
It's
I
hard
don't
to
care
take a.
about the team thing. Because here's
It's
the
hard to
thing.
take a quarterback like that because the quarterback has to be the leader. It has to be the,
yeah,
the substance. It has to
But
be the mature person in
dude.
the room.
Nobody
let's
wants
look at
Johnny
history.
Manziel, dude. Nobody wants Johnny Manziel.
And
Okay, let's look at the history
And you know
of
what? Even
sports.
Baker Mayfield had to learn the hard lesson. You know,
yeah,
he had to
and
learn it hard.
Cam Newton, he balled, but they
Hmm.
was mad at him. The veteran players was like, man, who is this dude?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
hear you. If you lose the locker room, it's but I'm just telling you all the bragging. There was just people in the history of sports. Ali put all that pressure on himself to succeed. Mayweather did the same thing. Sometimes to have that much confidence in yourself, Michael Jordan, he was before he did anything. Whoever decides a percentage like that on shoes when it was never done before because he bet it on himself and
Dude,
that's his mama.
he
no.
let his play.
Michael
No,
Jordan
not just his
lost
mom.
when it was about him. He lost more than he won. He didn't win
But what I'm getting
championships
at
until he
is,
started to understand that it's a team game.
Yeah,
so
That's
Chris,
what it is. And the players that you mentioned, Ali and the Mayweathers of the world, that's a different sport. It is based upon your individual talent. It's not you're not playing and depending upon someone a tackle
you're
blocking
right.
for
When
you
Michael
or
Jordan was
that.
scoring 50 and
Yeah,
45, they were losing. But
and
as soon as he
losing
came
every
back
game.
but
down to
but
the
what I'm
30,
saying is, but
and
what I'm saying
he
is,
had Scottie Pippen, and he had the centers
but
involved, and he had Horace Grant
Yeah,
involved. They got better.
they
still
got a lot
cocky.
better.
He was still telling people what he gonna do to him. Just like
Yeah,
Larry
no, but
Bird. Larry Bird said, I'm gonna do
Michael
this,
Jordan.
this, and this.
That's the difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron. LeBron won pretty much instantly. Michael Jordan, it took a while for him to make the people around him better.
Don't get
We
me on
knew Michael
LeBron, man.
was 50, but it took a while.
But what I'm saying is, I think you guys are missing a point. I feel like this. I'm gonna take a gamble on a person that put that much pressure on him because here's one thing. Like it's like we were talking about
Not a
with
quarterback.
sports. No, it's like we were talking about with sports in general.
Hmm.
You put so much pressure on yourself. People are either gonna watch to see you fail, watch to see you succeed. But if you are a bust after all the talk you've talked, guess what's gonna happen? You're not gonna be in a league that long because nobody wants a cocky person that's not producing.
Well,
Now, going into this, let me ask you a question. If you boast about how great you were and you don't perform to that level, who is the guy that's gonna look like a fool? You or the
well,
rest of the league.
but see, he's not the one that's going to lose his job. The problem
Oh,
is
he'll
the people.
lose.
Okay, let's take Cleveland. Cleveland, they need to win, or they're going to lose their job. The Giants, they have to win, or they're going to lose their job. Mike Tomlin ain't losing his job. So, you know what I'm saying? The
Dude,
Saints, if they don't win, they're going to lose their job.
hey, listen
But
though,
that's what I
dude.
say.
Here's what we're missing though. You got guys like Patrick Mahomes. You got guys like Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. All those players, they're confident, right? We know that they're confident because they play
Hey,
on the
Travis
biggest
Kelsey's
stage
cocky though.
in the world, but you don't hear them talking about it, and you don't
Travis
hear them.
Kelsey.
Travis, I'm not. We're talking about quarterbacks, right? Let's
No,
compare
I'm just
apples to
saying
apples.
players.
The
Yeah,
Yeah, I
quarterback.
hear what you're saying.
we're talking about quarterbacks. The better players aren't self promoters. They let their play do the talking for them, and they're good leaders. Look at Patrick Mahomes. How many times do you hear him me? I got the bling. I got that kind of thing. You just don't hear it. That's not leadership. That's
Yeah.
self promotion, and I don't think that that's good for the team or the game. It might be good for the game because it's entertaining to watch. Like to your point, someone fail, but I want to see people succeed. So
But But to that point, though, he also came from a polished environment. His dad was a professional baseball player. That was instilled on him. I think his dad showed him how to be a professional way
I
before
know,
that. And a lot
but
of those
Trap,
guys lead that way. But
but
Dion was flash and his son's
I know, but
falling sick.
Trap. The Watts don't act like that. The Bosas don't act like that. Nobody acts like that.
No,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. But I'm just saying that sometimes putting that target on your back is a good thing because it motivates you to play up to the level you're saying that you're
If you
capable
have
of
the
playing.
ability, I agree with you, Trav. If you can back it up with your words, and you are putting a target on your back, and let me just say that back in the day when you did that, dudes came after you, right? If you
Yeah.
was a quarterback and you were saying you was the best, but they wanted to
I'm
humble
him.
you. They
I'm
wanted to
him.
take you down a
He's
notch.
him. He's always
Yeah.
been him.
Yeah, I forget
Yeah.
who was doing that, and they just it was you know who it was? It was the Packers drafted him as an offensive tackle.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, the
what was
bus,
his name?
300
Uh,
and something pound dude.
yeah, he drafted him number one, and he came out, and it was like this dude is supposed to be this, and he was. Now he wasn't necessarily self promoting like that, but he was pushed up to this level that he was going to be so good.
But that
I
was
can't
people
remember his
pushing
name.
him to that level. I know
But you
what you're
know
talking
what?
about.
Mandrick. He
If
was
y'all want to hear a nice interview,
yeah.
they talked to the kid from Ohio State, and he said, "quote I think I'm the best quarterback in this draft." And he said, if you're going to be a quarterback, you should think you're the best. You know, you should think you're the best. You should think you're the most competitive. But he talked about what he talked about: my teammates, my offensive line. I want to get better.
But
I'm
that's
a
cocky
study.
in its own self.
But
That's having confidence in
I've
yourself.
never heard Shador saying, "I'm going to study. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do this." All I heard was, "I'm this. I'm that.
Yeah.
I'm him. If
You
you
know what?
want me, if you want to change your franchise, you get
Can I
me. If
say
you
something
don't,
though?
then don't take
Hey,
me."
you know what? I was right. It was Tony Mandrick.
Yeah, it was Tony
Reggie
Manfred,
White
the real
treated
big
him
guy.
like a stepchild that lived underneath the stairs.
But let me just say this. Let me say this. All right. They can say the same thing about Dion. Dion was all about flash and stuff like that. But let me tell you one thing about him that a lot of people don't know because he talked so much and it overshadowed his talent. Dion also said, I knew what every defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator in the league was doing because he studied obsessively. But they didn't see that. They only seen him talking all that trash, saying he's going to do all of this stuff. But they didn't see the work he actually put in to become the player he became. He knew what every offense was going to do before anybody. But nobody seen that because his talk overshadowed what kind of a player he was.
I think
Yeah,
you're talking
but
about the exceptions and not the rules. So are you
He
saying
came
that?
from
Dion
that.
was the
Hold on.
No,
exception.
I'm
Dion could play
saying
Yeah.
both ways
he's.
and play
Are
I'm
you
baseball.
saying that.
saying, Trav,
I'm
that
saying that
Shador is
Shakur's
the
coming.
exception? Is
No,
he an
I'm
exceptional
saying that.
talent?
I'm. Let me just say this: the great players that came in the league who followed a brother or father or something, they learned the game way before they got to the pros, before they got to college. They knew how to study. They knew how to do all of these things. And Dion, listen, Dion's coaching because he was
How come
such a
Marvin
good player
Harrison
and
didn't act
stuff.
like that?
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't know.
I'm not saying the act and behavior. He's trying to be his dad. I mean, we all know that.
But
But
he
if
ain't got
he,
enough. He ain't got enough chips in the bank to be that.
but what
He
I'm
got
getting
to.
at, if he's studying like his dad did, if he's doing all the things his dad taught him to do, let's say this: you went to Jackson State and built that program up.
But but
Then you went to Colorado and made him. You made him
but
worth
but
watch, must
only
see
where I'm
TV.
with you, Travis, is two things. Tom Brady put his name on him, and Dion put his name on him. And one thing I noticed about Dion ain't said nothing about Shiloh. Shiloh plays cornerback and safety. I
Shallow
No,
runs a 5.040.
I
You
ain't
know.
heard, man. He ain't mentioned Shiloh when he talks about his boys. He's talking about Travis Hunter and Shador. He ain't talking
Yeah.
about Shiloh.
but let me tell you this though: who was working with Shador during the off seasons and stuff like that? He brought Tom Brady in there to work with him.
Well, who was
I'm
working with
just saying
Shiloh?
there
I
has
want
to
to
be
know.
some football IQ from him for them both to see something and say
Well,
that.
I don't think that
Tom
we're
Brady is not
arguing.
going to just say it just to say it.
We're not saying that he's not a talent. He's an NFL talent. I'm not saying that he's not.
We don't
I
even know. We just
Well,
got
I'm
to say
saying that
that is his IQ
Shador.
high enough to back it up.
Well, I think he. Well, that's arguable, but I don't know. I need to take his ACTs and his Wonderlic score.
I'm
But
talking about his football IQ.
Yeah,
right,
because I would love to see him in a room with John Gruden. You know, how John Gruden used to put the kids on
yeah,
the board and say,
yeah.
"Run
They
this Y read
diagnosis play
zigzag."
kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
think that he's an
But
NFL
I wouldn't
talent.
want to read John Gruden's emails after you talk to him.
Hey, I
Come
got
on, man.
my
Next thing you're
mock
gonna be talking
draft
about,
2.0
you're
coming
gonna be
up
talking
next week,
about,
y'all.
you're gonna be talking about Brett Favre's volleyball budget or something, man. Come on, man.
Yeah,
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Kareem
we
Hunt
don't
kicking
talk
anybody,
about.
and we
Yeah,
don't talk about Worthy choking
yep.
anybody out.
You don't talk about my team either. Slap you.
And Rasheed Rice is not a race car driver. Okay.
You great.
Dude.
This drive's gonna be interesting. We've got 2 weeks.
We should have a
10
watch
days.
party.
10 days.
We
Well, let's wrap it
Yeah,
up. We've been listening to, and y'all been listening to the Brother to Brother Sports Podcast. My name is Just G. We got
CT.
CT and Pittsburgh Trap. Thank y'all for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and leave us what y'all want us to talk about. We try to cover everything. Somebody in the comments said talk about UFC. We can get into that. UFC, boxing,
Absolutely.
soccer,
Yeah,
MLS, the Euro League. We can get into it. Just give us some time. We're working out the kinks in the video. Appreciate y'all. Let us know how y'all liking the new app that gets us video and good audio. Let us know how the sound, how it looks, and give us some commentary, man. Love us or hate us, we're gonna be here every week giving our hot takes
that's
on all
right.
the sports, man. Brother to Brother Sports. This is the podcast. YouTube, Spotify. We see y'all next time,
What happened to
and
peace?
make sure you don't have
Peace,
no
peace, peace, peace.
guns,
Peace.
man. And light the beam. Hopefully next time we talk to teams that won and they are playing, well, not getting drummed by OKC.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, well, check us
We're
out
gonna have
next
our
week.
mock
This has been
draft. We
Brother
gotta
to
have
Brother
another one before
Sports.
the mock. Yep.
Yeah. All
B2B,
right,
baby.
y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.